Welcome to AM/PM Sports. I'm Aaron Moret. We are live on ESPN1005.com. Also on Aaron and Friends Broadcast, and you can watch us right there on our homepage. Again, you're listening to AM/PM Sports, and I don't know how we're going to get through this entire hour. We have so many things to talk about and so little time to do it here on the program. The Packers miss out on a first-round bye. The Vikings win. Coaches being fired left and right on this Black Monday. NFL playoffs are set. We know the teams who are going to be in. We know the teams who are going home. The Wisconsin Badgers are in the Rose Bowl tomorrow against Stanford. And by the way, also Happy New Year, don't drink and drive, and all that good stuff. But go out, have a good time. However you are celebrating your New Year, I hope you make 2013 a great one. But we don't have time to talk about that kind of stuff right now because, as I said, we have so much more to get to. We have a ton of things to get to here on tonight's program. We're going to be with you until 8 o'clock Central Time here on ESPN1005.com and Aaron and Friends Broadcasting.com as well. If you want to get a hold of the show, you can do that. Our number is 715-298-9888. That's 715-298-9888. You can also send me a tweet. I'm at Aaron_ESPN1005. So at Aaron_ESPN1005. Just kind of like our ESPN1005.com website. Simple as that. All you have to do is get a hold of us. 715-298-9888 is our phone number. All right, let's start. I mean, we have to dive into this right away because, again, we are limited for time, and, we have to get the New Year's festivities underway, and, we only have till 8 o'clock, and like I said, we have a ton of things to get to. Number one, Minnesota Vikings beat the Green Bay Packers 37-34 in the Metrodome last night, and they ruined the Packers' chances of getting that number 2 seed, as San Francisco comes in and grabs that. And also the Vikings make the playoffs with that victory. I picked the Vikings to win. Just before the game started, looking at them, they're a desperate team. They had their backs up against the wall about as much as you could. They needed to win to get into the playoffs, and that's exactly what they did. Adrian Peterson is amazing. You know, I sent out a tweet earlier. I don't know what it is about the Minnesota Vikings where they get all these freak athletes from. First Randy Moss and then Adrian Peterson. I mean, they get some of these guys who can do things that nobody else in the league can do, and they seem to end up on the Vikings. But Adrian Peterson, he was great. Came a few yards shy of breaking Eric Dickerson's all-time single-season rushing record. He had 199 yards yesterday for the Vikings, and again, that's 2 games this season, and he has run for well over 400 yards against the Packers alone. I mean, to put that into perspective for you, the Packers' leading rusher is Alex Green, and I don't have the number right in front of me of what he has, but he has 400-some-odd yards. And Adrian Peterson has 400-some-odd yards against the Packers alone in 2 games. So, I mean, Peterson is a force to be reckoned with. He's basically unstoppable. If you figure out how to stop him, let me know. The thing that, and I'm going to just talk about Peterson for a second, because he's got this combination of size and speed and breaking tackles. He's got quick moves, quick with his feet, great balance. I mean, he does nothing wrong. But the thing that I guess kind of sticks out to me about Peterson, the thing that amazes me about him more than any other aspect of his game, is that when you watch him, a lot of times he gets contact. All right, the defense will make contact with him early on in the run, and he'll just keep going. It doesn't even slow him down. Some guys in the NFL are able to run through contact. But even if they run through it, they're at least slowing down. I mean, it slows them up a little bit, but Peterson, I mean, it's like it's a fly hitting him. It just doesn't matter. He does not get slowed down by anyone. You can hit him, you can try to knock him off his run, but it doesn't slow him down. I mean, how do you stop somebody like that? I just have no idea. So, Adrian Peterson, impressive, and it's always hard to tell whether it's the Packers when they're playing Peterson or any team, anytime you watch Peterson, if it's bad fundamental tackling by the team or if Peterson is just that good, and sometimes it may be a combination of both. The Packer defense was not good enough. They needed to get more pressure on Ponder than what they did. We saw a huge difference in that between 5 weeks ago when the Packers and Vikings played, and then yesterday when the two teams met again. Just not enough pressure on Ponder. 1 sack for the Packers. They did not do enough on defense to disrupt things. And I think the Vikings could be considered that hot team at the right time this season. I mean, the only problem with that, I've had this discussion with some people, the only problem with calling the Vikings the hot team at the right time, like the Packers in 2010, like the Giants in 2008 and 2011, the problem with that is they don't have a quarterback other than Christian Ponder. They could be considered that team if they had a quarterback that was not named Ponder. And I know they're winning games, and he's played better, and he obviously played well yesterday, threw for 240 yards, or 234 yards, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. But does anyone think that he's good enough to get them to a Super Bowl, even if the team is hot? So that's a problem for the Vikings, and we'll see what happens with that when the Packers play them in the first playoff game on Saturday night. And something else regarding the Packers, I need to say something that's going to be unpopular around Packer circles, and this really has nothing to do with the loss yesterday. I'm not reacting to the Packers losing yesterday because, like I said, I thought before the game that the Packers were going to lose. I picked them to lose just because of the situation that they were in and the situation that the Vikings were in. The Vikings had a lot more to play for yesterday than the Packers did. But the question that I have for you, and we'll get to some of your comments off of Twitter and Facebook as well on this. The question is, are the Packers clicking the way they were in 2010 when they won the Super Bowl? And do you feel like they're primed to make a Super Bowl run? That's the question I have to you, and that's where I come off here saying what I'm about to say, which, again, is going to be fairly unpopular among Packer fans, but I think it's the truth. And this has, again, nothing to do with the loss yesterday. In 2010, I watched the Packers and the way they played and how good they were overall, top to bottom, as a team. And at some point, right at the end of the season, and in the playoffs, right at the beginning of the playoffs, I knew that they were going to win the Super Bowl. Just watching them, I knew it. It was all falling into place. You just had this sense, this feeling. To me, it was just a fact that they were going to win it all in 2010. I don't get that feeling this year. And I hope I'm wrong. I really do. But the Packers may be one of the most talented teams in the playoffs, and they certainly are. And they may actually have more talent on their team than any other playoff team, but I just don't see it happening. Aaron Rodgers is great. They have great weapons to throw to. They have Clay Matthews on defense. They have good defensive backs. They have B.J. Raji. They have all this stuff. But in 2010, you could see everything clicking. Just as a team, it all came together. There was no weakness ever, not in any part of their game. I mean, from the most talented part, Aaron Rodgers and his receivers, and Clay Matthews and the pass rushers, all the way to the most obscure parts of the team, like Tim Mastay, they were all clicking on all cylinders. I mean, you could just get that sense. You know when a team is playing great football. And that's what it takes to win the Super Bowl. I don't think anyone out there, whether you agree or disagree with me on this statement, everyone knows that in the NFL, you have got to be playing great football to win the Super Bowl. There just seems to be something missing from this Packer team. You can be a team that has a ton of stars on it, but if that certain something just isn't there, that's something that just makes everything click seamlessly, you can't win the Super Bowl. And look, Andy Reid got fired today. You can't tell me that the Eagles didn't have talent. Michael Vick at quarterback, when teams are winning with guys like RG3, Russell Wilson, Colin Kaepernick at quarterback, and they're all good, but if they're good, you can't tell me that Michael Vick isn't good enough. He's good. LaShawn McCoy at running back, some really good wide receivers, some star defensive linemen. They have a few of the best cornerbacks in the business. They had playmakers scattered all over that Eagle team this year, very talented, but they just didn't have things clicking. I feel the same way with the Packers. Now, not to that same extreme as Philly. Obviously, the Packers are better. They're 11-5. I'm really not trying to be a downer here. Okay, but the Packers, as the playoffs start, but this is just an honest question, and there is no wrong answer, and if you disagree with me on it, that's fine. I won't fight it, but do you really have that same special feeling about the Packers right now as you did about the team in 2010 when they won the Super Bowl? To go back to that again, I knew that they were going to win it. There was a point in time where something in my mind just clicked, and I said, they are going to win the Super Bowl. It was just there. I mean, it came natural for me to think it by watching the way they played, by watching the way other teams in the playoffs were playing. I knew they were going to win it. They could do nothing wrong. They had it all together. It was put together. It was clicking. And nobody was going to stop them. But, just watching them play, there was that feel. You just knew they weren't going to lose a game. And maybe this whole thing that I'm thinking is just in my head. I love watching Aaron Rodgers play. He's going to be a Hall of Famer. He had an outstanding game yesterday. He does things that no other quarterback in the game can do, and he really does. He throws it to guys who can make plays like no one else in this league as well. I love the way DeJuan Harris has been running. I love watching Clay Matthews chase and catch running backs from behind and sack the quarterback. I love Casey Hayward and Sam Shields and Tremont Williams. That stuff is all great. You can't take that away. But the Packers do some things better than any team in the NFL. They actually do a lot of things better than any team in the NFL. But the fact that they're not able to get pressure on Ponder concerns me. The fact that Aaron Rodgers was sacked 5 times yesterday concerns me. And the fact that he's been sacked 51 times this season, that's got to be a concern heading into the playoffs. Having a field goal kicker who's missed more than any other one in the NFL this season continues to worry me. He did play well yesterday, but still. I mean, you have to have some doubts about him. And it concerns me that every time the Packers match up against a physical team or physical players, it's always bad news for the Packers. Losses to the 49ers, the Seahawks, the Giants this year. Adrian Peterson killing the Packers twice this year. The fact that they can't play good physical football concerns me. Because go back to the Super Bowl, and if they want to get to the Super Bowl, they're going to have to overcome some physical teams by playing physical football. You have physical teams in the playoffs. All right, the Vikings were hard enough for them to handle yesterday. You're going to run into a lot tougher tests when you're going through the NFC playoffs, especially considering how strong the NFC is. And again, it's not that the Packers are bad. They're 11-5. They won the division. They have a good coaching staff. They have a good GM. But there are certain holes, ones that I just expressed, that make me really doubt that they can go through the playoffs and win a Super Bowl. Other teams may not be as talented as the Packers, and they may not be great in any area like Green Bay is, but they're solid in every area. The Packers are great in some areas, and they are weak in others. And that's just how it is. Some other teams that I look at in the playoffs, the Seahawks, the 49ers, they may not be as great as the Packers in any area, but they're all solid in every part of their game, and they don't really have a weakness. Okay, their ceiling for how good they can be at quarterback or at wide receiver or at linebacker may not be as high as the Packers' ceiling, but their low points aren't as bad as what some of Green Bay's are. I mean, you've given up 51 sacks on Aaron Rodgers this year. Not good. And you know what happens when you make it into the playoffs? Any weakness that a team has is exposed, and I have concerns that it may happen to the Packers. And that's not to say that I think the Vikings are going to beat the Packers this Saturday, but I don't see them going all the way to the Super Bowl and winning it. I think the Vikings are another example of what the Packers are. Like I said, I think you could consider them that team that's hot at the right time with the streak that they're on, the games that they've won, the way they got into the playoffs, but the way they needed to win to get in the playoffs, that's all part of it. All that makes them that team, but they won't be the team that wins it all because they have a weakness, and it's at quarterback. And Ponder may be playing better, but he's going to be exposed at some point in the playoffs because the playoffs are the playoffs, and you always expose the weaknesses once you get into the postseason. And at some point, they're going to lose a playoff game because of Christian Ponder, maybe not because he makes a mistake, but because he's not up to the level of another quarterback in the NFC. And it's gonna expose him, and they're not going to be able to win. Much like I feel like the Packers' offensive line at some point is going to rear its ugly head, and it's going to cost the Packers a playoff game. Hey, the Vikings may be great somewhere else, but that one weakness at quarterback where even if they were solid, not even talking about being a great quarterback like Aaron Rodgers, the one weakness that they have, where if they were just solid, they would be okay. But that weakness is going to do them in. And I don't think it's any different with the Packers. Unless something drastically changes between what we've seen all season through 17 weeks, 16 games, and the next 6 days before the Packers play again, it's going to be really tough. Going to be tough. And for the Packers, I just fear that that weakness that they have is going to be in the trenches at the line of scrimmage, and that's on both sides of the ball. We need to take a quick break. We're going to come back and talk more. We'll talk more Packers, take your comments and questions as well, and we'll also look at some of the coaching firings today on this dreaded Black Monday in the NFL and around the league. You're listening to AM PM Sports on ESPN, 1005.com, and Aaron and Friends Broadcasting.
My baby boy was a very good sleeper. He would nap in the morning and nap again in the afternoon, so my routine became that I would drink the first half of the time I expected him to sleep so that I could pass out the second half. Even during my pregnancy, knowing that it might be harmful to the baby, I could not stop drinking. The fear of any harm to that child was not enough to make me stop. Sometimes I would try to go to the park with him, but I was becoming really fearful of people finding out what a sick person I was. Today, since I joined AA, I don't have that sensation anymore at all. I have a purpose in life today. I know who I am. I know where I'm going, and I feel good about it. I can be a mother to my child, and I can be a wife to my husband, and I couldn't be any of those things when I was drinking. Alcoholics Anonymous. It works. Look us up. Check your phone book, newspaper, or AA.org.
Complicated. Reciting the novel War and Peace from memory.
Uncomplicated. Giving a gift to a worthy cause.
Complicated. Passing a molecular biophysics final without ever studying molecular biophysics.
Uncomplicated. Using your financial resources to help others.
Complicated. Passing your driver's license exam in a Top Fuel dragster.
Uncomplicated. Donating stock to the American Heart Association. It's a simple process to make a contribution, and you avoid paying a capital gains tax. Plus, you can quickly receive the benefits of your gift if you donate by December 31st. To learn more about the advantages of donating stock to the American Heart Association, call 1-800-242-8721. Take stock in life.
Complicated. Building a 36-story log cabin with your bare hands.
Uncomplicated. Helping give someone a second chance at life.
Just what do you think you're entitled to when you donate to a university?
When this UConn donor story broke, Golick was hot. And I'll be honest, my reaction was, I don't think much of it. I don't think it's that big a deal. But folks are going nuts.
Yeah, they are.
I mean, the reaction is blown up here. Here's some of the tweets we're getting. Again, for you just joining us, a rich guy in Greenwich, Connecticut gave $7 million to the University of Connecticut. Big gift to the football program. His name's on the building. They didn't seem to have given him at least the impression that he was consulted on the hiring of the new football coach. So he wrote an angry letter saying he wants some of his money back and he wants his name off the building. Here's some of the reaction we're getting on Twitter. And again, we're at Mike and Mike. When I donate clothes to Goodwill, I don't stipulate who can wear them. Is the donation actually a gift or is it an investment? If it's an investment, then he should have some say. Here's another. I think UConn should return the money only if Mr. Burton kept his gift receipt. And then there's another one I like. Charity.
The lead blocker. Under the eye again. This time, Jeremy Hill, the true freshman, the running back.
Mike and Mike in the morning, each weekday from 5 till 9 a.m. on Sports Fan 100.5.
Hey, Mike Golick here, joining Greeny and me for Mike and Mike in the morning, weekdays from 5 to 9 on Central Wisconsin's new FM home for ESPN, Sports Fan 100.5.
Welcome back, AM PM Sports, ESPN 1005.com, and Aaron and Friends Broadcasting. You can get a hold of the program. Phone number 715-298-9888. That's 715-298-9888. You can tweet me. I'm at Aaron_ESPN 1005, at Aaron_ESPN 1005. Talking Green Bay Packers. Taking your comments on it. We're going to get to a couple of those off of Twitter quickly here. Just asking, are the Packers clicking right now, the way they were in 2010 when they won the Super Bowl? And do you feel that they are primed to make a Super Bowl run? Mike says, no, the defense sucks and is soft. If AP doesn't run them over, Gore will. Again, that goes back to what I was saying in the first segment of the program. It concerns me the fact that whenever they go up against a physical team or a physical player, it doesn't necessarily have to be an overall physical team that matches up badly against the Packers like the Giants have done the last couple of years, and we've seen how that's worked out last year in the playoffs, this year in the regular season. Even in 2008 when Brett Favre was in Green Bay, the Giants came in and they beat the Packers. Why? Because they dominated the line of scrimmage. And Aaron Rodgers has been sacked 51 times this year, but it's not just plain physical teams as a whole. It is also physical players. Adrian Peterson has killed the Packers this year in the 2 games that he's gotten against them. That's not a fluke. That's not. There's something to that. Yeah, there is. Let's see. Nathan asked a question. Says, do you think that the emergence of Ross as a return guy will limit Cobb in special teams? I think that eventually Randall Cobb is going to be taken out of the special teams role, not this year, but I would assume that next year. And I don't know if Ross is going to fit into that picture or not. I mean, he's a guy who did not make this team by much of a margin. I mean, he's more or less been a practice squad guy. And, I mean, we didn't see him until a few weeks ago until that fake punt return with Randall Cobb throwing him the ball against the Bears. That was really the first that we've seen him this year, in any kind of a role where there's a chance for plays to be made. So, I don't know if he's going to factor into it in the future, but more so than anything else, I do think that if you want to talk about limiting Cobb in special teams, I think eventually, probably next year, Cobb is going to be out of that role. I would expect that Mike McCarthy is going to stick with Cobb, and actually he's already said that he will stick with Randall Cobb in the playoffs this year, despite the fact that he got injured. And I'm okay with that, because Randall Cobb is a very valuable wide receiver, no doubt. I mean, that's probably where the most his biggest value is as far as a single position. But to me, Randall Cobb is all about the bigger picture. He's one of these guys who is not just a valuable wide receiver, but his value increases because of the fact that he can be valuable in multiple areas, and one of those areas is special teams. So, I'm all in favor of keeping him on special teams even next year. We'll see if the Packers do that or not, but, that's going to be a wait-and-see type thing. Let's see. Luke says on Twitter, the only team in the NFC that worries me is the Vikings and Adrian Peterson. If they win Saturday, I like their chances. I disagree with that. The Vikings are one team that doesn't worry me a whole lot. Of course, Peterson worries me, and I guess it is a little concerning that they lost the game to them yesterday. But to me, the concerning teams, San Francisco and Seattle, the 2 probably most physical teams in the NFC playoff picture. Those are the 2 teams that worry me the most because, again, comes back to the battle in the trenches. Derek says, defense isn't what it was in 2010, though. Secondary needs to play a lot better to win next week. And, yeah, you can't give up 234 yards to Christian Ponder. Here's the deal for the Packers coming up on Saturday. If Green Bay gives up 230-plus yards and 3 touchdowns or 2 touchdowns to Christian Ponder on Saturday, pack your bags, Green Bay. You lost. I mean, that's how it's going to be because Peterson is going to get his. He's going to move the ball. And if the Packers can't stop Ponder, I mean, forget stopping Peterson. You can just hope that you can limit him to some extent. But if you can't stop Ponder, and if he puts up 230-plus yards passing and a couple of touchdowns, forget it. I mean, it's going to be done because you're not going to shut Peterson down. So that's got to improve, and I think it will. I mean, I have enough confidence in Dom Capers and in the defensive backs that Green Bay has that they're going to be able to do that. Off of Twitter, or off of Facebook, I should say, if you want to look me up on there, just look up Aaron Michael, and you should find me. Not too hard. It's the guy with the Packer hat and jersey on, or sweatshirt on in the profile picture. Noren says, too many injuries, depends on opponents. Tiffany said, in terms of are the Packers clicking like they were in 2010, do you feel like they're poised to make a Super Bowl run? Tiffany says, yep, I can feel it in my bones. Ron says, not at all. Josiah says, don't know yet. And I mean, that's one thing that if you don't know yet, that the answer is probably no. at this point, when you have the playoffs starting up on Saturday and we're sitting here talking on Monday, if we don't know yet if the Packers are poised or not to make a playoff run, safe answer would probably be a nope. Peter says, yep, I think they are the best team now in the NFL. Not sure that I disagree with that one when you have on the other side of the coin in the AFC, the Denver Broncos, who are red hot, with Peyton Manning at quarterback. I don't know. Amy says, sure, I like to be positive, give them a chance. No, I mean, it's not really a matter of giving them a chance. It's a matter of, are they clicking or are they not? And we're going to see. We'll see. A great performance against the Vikings this upcoming week could change my entire view on this. Because I don't think that they're clicking that way. You just got that feel in 2010. At least I did. Where I just knew, it was a fact to me, the Packers are going to win the Super Bowl this year. And that's how I felt in 2010. And I just don't get that feeling this year because I see other teams around the NFL who don't have any weakness. They're not as great as the Packers in any one area, but they don't have a weakness, and the Packers do. And that's really what concerns me, because as soon as the postseason comes along, teams' weaknesses are exposed no matter what that weakness is. It's exposed. And again, unless something drastically happens to change for the Packers, I fear that it's going to be a problem. Harold says, not if they play like they did on Sunday. Then one more comment to get to. Rick says, new season or not, come the NFC Championship game, the Packers are done if they get that far. I'm nothing but a Packers fan, but the 2010 team would blow this team out of the water. I agree with that. If you put, don't even look at the rosters next to each other. Just look at that Packer team in 2010 when they went into Game 1 in the postseason in Philadelphia. Just look. Don't even look at the players on the team. Don't look at the rosters. Just think back and think about the way that 2010 team was playing in Week 1 of the playoffs and the way that the Packers played yesterday. And the fact that Aaron Rodgers was sacked 5 times. I don't want to take too much away from the Packers because they just got done blowing out the Titans 55-7. Although the Titans being a bad team, the Packers did what they should have done against them, and that was great. But they're still, all season, they just haven't seemed to click in all areas. They've certainly clicked in some areas, but not in all areas. And that's what worries me. Again, you can get a hold of me on Facebook, Aaron Michael, or on Twitter at Aaron_ESPN1005. You can give me a call, 715-298-9888. That's 715-298-9888. Unless you're listening to this on archive, which if you're doing that, you might as well not call because I'm not going to be here to answer for you. So it really doesn't matter at that point. Okay, Black Friday in the NFL. Firings all across the league. We'll get to that in 2 minutes. You're listening to AM PM Sports on ESPN 1005.com and Aaron and Friends Broadcasting.
When the game really counts. The Bull Championship Series. You're home for the best in sports play-by-play. Sports Fan 100.5 delivers.
What I remember most is the loneliness I felt, the separation from other people. At the end, drinking was no fun for me. Since I've started to attend AA meetings, the greatest gift is that I've become reconnected, a part of life again. I really like myself, and that's wonderful. AA is a miracle in my life. Alcoholics Anonymous. It works. Look us up. Check your phone book, newspaper, or AA.org.
The biggest names in sports are on ESPN Radio.
The big man Trevor Price is in our studio.
You kind of start looking around like, what's going on? And as you're saying what's going on, they're snapping the ball.
The great Franco Harris is back with us.
Mike Tomlin knows his football, and he respects the history of the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Former Pittsburgh Steeler wideout Lynn Swann joins us.
One loss and you're out. I'm up in Dodge watching the game.
The biggest names in sports can be heard right here on ESPN Radio. And ESPNRadio.com.
Your home for ESPN Radio is Sports Fan 100.5.
I know Central Wisconsin can't get enough Packers and NFL coverage. Get your daily football fix in the Herd 9 a.m. to 1 on Sports Fan 100.5.
Welcome back to the program, AM PM Sports, ESPN1005.com, and Aaron and Friends Broadcasting Network.com. Glad you could join us here. Happy New Year to all of you out there. Again, you can get a hold of the program. You can tweet me. I'm at Aaron_ESPN1005, and on Facebook, Aaron Michael. If you want to look me up and send me a friend request on there, don't be shy. You can do that. I might even wish you another Happy New Year. A New Year that's not going to be happy for some people are coaches that got the old axe today on Black Monday. Black Monday in the NFL. The Bears fire Lovie Smith. Cardinals fire Ken Wisenhunt. Eagles fire Andy Reid. Jets fire General Manager Tannenbaum, holding on to Rex Ryan. Norv Turner and the General Manager fired in San Diego. The Chiefs fire Romeo Crennel. Bills fired Chan Gailey. Pat Shurmur fired by the Browns. Boy, there was no coaching changes or firings during the 2012-2013 season, but they are coming left and right as the season came to an end yesterday for many teams around the NFL, except for the lucky few who were fortunate enough to make the playoffs. So we'll jump into all that right here on the program. The Bears firing Smith, I guess, is the most controversial. I've heard a lot of people say that they think that it was a mistake to fire him. But I think we can draw some parallels between Smith and Andy Reid over in Philadelphia. Now, both of them have been solid enough coaches to win games. Reid has won a ton. I mean, it seems like he's been to the NFC Championship game a billion times. He's been to one Super Bowl. He's not a bad coach, and I don't think Lovie is a bad coach either. I don't think he's great. We've seen him enough being here in Wisconsin and in Green Bay. He does a lot of good things, but his team starts out 7-1 this year, misses the playoffs, and he's been to the playoffs once in the last 5 or 6 years. That's not good enough. I mean, something isn't there. I mean, here's the deal with the parallel between the two of them, between Reid and Lovie. The Bears could have hung on to Lovie Smith, and they would have won a lot of games, just as they have in his time there. They've even been to a Super Bowl. But on the same day as these two get fired, it's almost as if the Bears nipped this situation in the bud before it turned into an Andy Reid-like situation in Chicago. Doesn't it kind of seem like that's the trail they were going on? Now, what was it with Andy Reid there? It was Andy Reid is winning a ton of games. He's taken us to the playoffs quite a bit. We're going to NFC Championship games. We even got to a Super Bowl, but either way, we're winning a ton of games. So he's obviously a good coach. I mean, he's not a dog. He's not awful. So, do we really want to part ways with him? And then, in hindsight, you kind of end up wasting a lot of years of talented football teams where you're always going to be questioning and wondering, could we have done better? Could we have done more? And that's that could have been the road that the Bears are going down. Lovie Smith had time there, and he won a lot of games, but he never won a Super Bowl. And it's all about winning Super Bowls, unless you're certain organizations in the NFL, which we don't even bother talking about here on the program because they're not worth our time. But any team that we do talk about is worth our time because they're out there to win a Super Bowl. And if they're not getting the job done, it doesn't matter what their record is. I mean, it's a fact. It's a fact. So, I mean, I don't know if that was Chicago's intention, but I just thought it was an interesting thing that on the same day that Andy Reid gets fired after his long tenured career in Philadelphia, that Lovie Smith, who is sort of somewhat in the same boat, got fired on the same day, maybe before it turns into an Andy Reid-like situation, because you hold on to a guy for so long and you say, well, we stuck all these years into him, we haven't won a Super Bowl yet, but we really don't want to give up on him because we've already invested so much time into him, believing in him, that we're just going to keep trying because he wins games. So the Bears may have just gotten rid of that situation before it even got started any more than it already was. And I really think Andy Reid's situation, that he just got worn down in Philly. He's there forever, never won a Super Bowl, but was good enough to win playoff games, good enough to get to a Super Bowl. I think he's an example of someone who got close, but just really needs a resurgence, needs a change of scenery. He's going to go somewhere and be successful. I really believe that, and I mean, his resume would suggest that. He's going to go wherever Andy Reid ends up going, he's going to be successful. He's either going to continue the success of an already okay team, and he's going to make them a little bit better, or he's going to take a bad team, and he's going to turn them around. He just will. He's a good football coach. It's in his blood, as we've heard many people say. He may even win a Super Bowl. I mean, I think this is a really good move for both the Eagles and for Reid. I think he'll be fine. I'll tell you what, as a Packer fan, it would scare the crap out of me to have Reid go to the Bears. It really would. I was listening to the herd earlier here on SportsFan 100.5 on ESPN Radio, and he was talking to Sal Palantonio, and Colin asked him, where could you see Andy Reid going to first, San Diego or Chicago? Boy, and that scared me, because if you put him with the Bears, I think Jay Cutler becomes a lot better quarterback. I think Matt Forte and some of the other offensive weapons that the Bears have would be used a lot better. That would really scare me if Andy Reid went to the Bears. I got to be honest with you. The Jets firing Tannenbaum isn't really a surprise. I think the Jets have some major problems, starting with the owner, then the GM. I think it's okay that they held on to Ryan. I don't know that there was a major problem with him. He has what he has to work with out there on the football field, and that comes from the owner and the GM. But I guess we'll have to see what happens with the new GM and Rex Ryan. A lot of times a new GM comes in, he likes to get his own guy in there as head coach, so we'll see. Again, Ryan is a guy that if he gets canned in the future, I'm sure he'll get another gig. He may not be some people's favorite. He may draw attention that you don't want your head coach drawing for some reasons, and I can't say that I would want Rex Ryan to coach the Packers if Mike McCarthy were to suddenly be gone. But at the same time, again, I don't think Ryan is one of those guys who you just look at and say, well, he's just completely unqualified to be an NFL head coach. I think if he got canned in the future, depending on what the new general manager for the Jets does, I think Ryan's a guy who could find another gig. North Turner fired in San Diego. We knew that was coming a while ago. Chiefs firing Cornell. I could have told you that the day he took over as interim coach, that he wasn't going to be their long-term answer. That was a given, at least to me. The Wisenhunt and Gailey firings, they don't really interest me. Don't really care either way. Not like they're big names or impact guys, and they were coaching pretty irrelevant teams with Arizona and Buffalo, and those organizations always, they have a ways to go before we start talking about them here on this program at any length, because as I stated a few minutes ago, we're not going to sit here and talk about teams who have been in just a complete irrelevant state for the last decade and longer, or with the exception of Arizona for a year or two with Kurt Warner. But overall, you get my point. They're one of those teams along with the Browns firing their coach. Who cares? Fire him. What teams like the Browns do is fire a guy like Shermer and then bring in Romeo Crennel to replace him. I mean, that's what bad teams, that's what bad organizations do. And that's not what the Packers do. Look how fast they were to pull the plug on certain coaches that they've had, in recent years where they've had more success. I mean, Ray Rhodes, they gave him 1 year, he was bad. Replaced him with Mike Sherman, who wasn't the best coach in the world, but hey, he had a lot of winning seasons in Green Bay. He won a lot of games. He was not a bad coach. Good organizations do that. Back to Twitter, Joel chimes in on the question of the day: are the Packers clicking like they were in 2010 when they won the Super Bowl? Joel says they're giving up over 200 yards per game to their first round running back opponent and made Ponder look like a star, so no. See, again, I'm not basing all this off of one game, not just yesterday. It's just You don't give up 55 sacks to your quarterback in one season, or in one game. I mean, that's a prolonged problem throughout the season that has not gotten fixed, and every time that they've played a good defensive front, whether it be San Francisco or Seattle or the Giants, Aaron Rodgers is getting killed. And the San Francisco game and the Seahawks game were early in the season. Giants were later in the year. Obviously, the problem wasn't fixed. So it's just it's a concern that I have. NFL playoffs are set in stone. Another season has come and gone. The remaining teams, if you have not heard the schedule yet, here it is quick. In the AFC, Cincinnati against Houston, Indianapolis against Baltimore, and Denver and New England have the week off. In the NFC, Minnesota versus Green Bay, Seattle versus Washington, and San Francisco and Atlanta have the week off. From a fan's perspective, if the Packers don't win the Super Bowl, I hope that the Broncos do. It's a little bit different for me to say because I've never liked Peyton Manning all that much, but I've been so impressed with him this year, and I think for the first time in his whole career, I've really taken the time to just sit back and admire the way he goes about his business and the way he's able to do things. And I'd like to see the Browns win it for him. Again, that is if the Packers do not make the Super Bowl. I'd like to see Peyton Manning win it. The Cincinnati-Houston game doesn't interest me a whole lot. I'm really looking forward to the Indianapolis versus Baltimore game. Baltimore is limping into the playoffs. Remember back early in the season, they looked unstoppable at times with their offense. They were running that no-huddle offense the first few weeks, and Flacco was playing well. But now who knows about them? And Indy is such a great story with Chuck Pagano and what he went through with his leukemia and the rookie Andrew Luck and the season that he's put together. I think it's going to be a fun game. I mean, I really do, because the Ravens are supposed to be the superior team, yet you have this young Colts team led by a rookie quarterback with a chance to win this game. I think it's going to be fun. I think it should be a good game. Seattle versus Washington, that game is going to be great. It may be the best game of the weekend. Two rookie quarterbacks, RG3 and Russell Wilson, both running similar offenses. I'd say this game would already be chosen if they were playing in Seattle because of the home field advantage. But I think this is the matchup is going to be great in the opening round of the playoffs. So the fact that they're playing it in Washington instead of Seattle it makes it a lot. I think a lot more even for these two teams, and I think it can go either way. But that's going to be a great game to watch. I mean, it's going to be a really fun opening weekend to the postseason in the NFL. The team I would least like to see in the playoffs, not just for the Packers, but in general. Now I'm just talking about if I were any NFL team, or you could put yourself in the Packers' shoes, the team that you would not want to see. There's always that one team every year where you say, well, boy, nobody wants to play them because they're playing so well. To me, that team would be Denver. Denver is number one. 49ers would be second in my book of teams I would just not want to play. Denver's been, it's not like they've just gotten on a hot streak recently. I mean, ever since early on in the season, right after the first quarter of the season ended, they've just been on a tear. And nobody's really talking about them. I mean, for a number one seed, and they snuck in and snatched that away yesterday. For a number one seed, nobody's really talking about Denver and Peyton Manning. A lot of people are talking about Peyton, but Denver as a whole is not getting a whole lot of attention like I feel they deserve. And I certainly would not want to face them. I'd rather see the Patriots in the Super Bowl. I'd certainly rather see the Texans or the Bengals or whoever else in the AFC in the Super Bowl if I'm the Packers. As I said, as far as the NFC goes, I would not want to see San Francisco. I mean, there's some hot teams in the NFC. The Seahawks are one. The Vikings are another one. I don't know. San Francisco worries me. I think the reason that they worry me as a Packer fan is that they're the next closest thing, in my opinion, to the Giants, who thank God they didn't make it. So maybe the Packers do have a chance to go to the Super Bowl. But to me, that one team that really worries me is in the NFC is the Niners. One more thing before we close out the program here. What a mix of quarterbacks that we have in the playoffs. Rookies, Andrew Luck, RG3, Russell Wilson. Then the guys with really no experience but have played before, no playoff experience, young guys, Christian Ponder, Colin Kaepernick. And you got the guys who have been there before. A guy like Matt Ryan, who has been to the playoffs, never won a playoff game. You have them in there. And then you have the three top dogs, Aaron Rodgers, Tom Brady, and Peyton Manning. They've all won a Super Bowl. And this is going to be great. Really, it's going to be such an entertaining postseason. And this first week is going to, round one, I think may be one of the best that we've seen in a long time. It really could be. I know we've been talking about it a lot this NFL season, but it's just amazing what some of these guys are doing as rookies in the NFL, these quarterbacks. So, Russell Wilson, RG3. I mean, nobody thought Russell Wilson was even going to be a starter the day that he went to Seattle, not considering that the Seahawks gave Matt Flynn a contract. But he comes in, not only does he take the job from Flynn, he holds on to it the entire season, and he's got his team into the playoffs. And they were in position to get a 2 seed if everything fell their way this past weekend. If the Packers lost, which they did, and if San Francisco lost and Seattle won, which they did, they would have been in as the 2 seed. And that's how good they've been. And of course, RG3, and I mean, it's been a very entertaining football season for awards. You can look at these Rookie of the Year awards, Andrew Luck, RG3, Russell Wilson, whose name has now been thrown in there with the way he's been playing lately. I mean, that's amazing. You have the comeback players, Adrian Peterson, what he's done this year, Peyton Manning, what he's done this year, and you can take Peyton Manning, you can take Adrian Peterson, and you can also throw into them that they could win the MVP award. I mean, it's incredible. What a great season for the NFL. I mean, it's hard to beat the entertainment value that we've gotten this year, along with some frustrating moments as Packer fans. Of course, Seattle game. I'm frustrated on a week in, week out basis with the calls that are made by officials and the rules of the NFL now. With the whether it be pass interference or unnecessary roughness for hitting a guy too hard. And you see a big hit, and as soon as you see that hit, you know what's coming. That flag's coming out. Even if it wasn't helmet to helmet, that looked like a nice, solid, ugly hit. One that makes you stand up and cheer and say, holy cow, did you just see that? You know what's coming next, the flag. Despite all that, it's been a very entertaining season. Just top to bottom, beginning to end. I mean, it's been fun. At least I think. I appreciate you joining us here on the program tonight. Glad to have you. Hope everyone has a safe and happy new year. Go out, have some fun. Stay at home, have some fun. Do whatever you do for New Year's, but make sure, especially if you're going out and tipping a few of them back, make sure you, there are things such as safe ride home and cabs to call. Do that. Do everyone a favor. But again, hope you have a great New Year, and hope you had a good holiday season, a great Christmas. And we are not going to have a program tomorrow. The Badgers are on tomorrow. We didn't even get a chance to talk to them, about them. We'll talk about them in our next program, which will be on Wednesday night because of the New Year. Tomorrow, no program. But Wednesday night, we will be back here, same time, same place, 7:30 or 7:05 until 8. And we will be back, and we'll do it with you then. And I guess the only thing left to say is go Badgers. You've been listening to AM/PM Sports on ESPN 1005.com and Aaron Friends Broadcasting.